Hi, I'm Ryann Funk, a creative communications specialist, and today I've prepared a strategic communication plan for the client Girls Behind the Rock show, also stylized as GBTRS. First is a quick client background. Today's client is Girls Behind the Rock show, a nonprofit organization and the largest online platform and resource for women and gender nonconforming people in the music industry. Founded by Shelby Chargan in 2015, GBTRS was created on four main values: opening the dialogue within the industry, breaking down barriers to increase accessibility, creating equal opportunities for marginalized groups, and fostering community. The final value is the organization's most notable, as the GBTRS Music Industry Networking Group on Facebook currently has over 11,000 members, varying from high-level industry professionals to young, ambitious individuals trying to get their big break. Next up is identification of actual and potential publics. For the purpose of this report, the key relationships have been divided into internal and external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders for this organization include volunteers that make up the GBTRS team, existing community members, and organizations that have previously partnered with GBTRS in some capacity. These internal stakeholders indirectly affect the organization's larger issue, because if there is not a solid relationship or community foundation backing the organization, it will be incredibly difficult for GBTRS to convince external stakeholders to create and maintain working relationships. External stakeholders for GBTRS include media outlets, major music industry players, and non-music industry professionals actively working to resolve injustices within the arts. These are connections to resources that the organization ultimately needs to achieve the bigger goals of bringing awareness to their cause and getting the support they need to carry on to larger initiatives. In the 7 years since its founding, GBTRS has amassed one of the largest online followings in its industry, yet in 2022 still does not have the bandwidth, resources, and external support from the music industry that other similar organizations do. The organization's team is stretched so thin that it is virtually impossible to run and maintain long-term public relations campaigns to get the mission and values of GBTRS out to a more public-facing platform. The proposed research is meant to help GBTRS understand where the disconnect is between the organization and its target publics, and how reducing or eliminating that disconnect as much as possible affects the organization's ability to spread awareness of what its focus is and why it needs support from major industry players. In the digital space, field observation would be altered in a way of just observing the ways that an organization interacts with all publics online, how the public responds directly or indirectly to organization actions, and how any conflicts occur and are resolved in a digital forum. With field observation of the digital space with other organizations, it would be suggested to collect screenshots as records of interactions. In respect to GBTRS's rule on sharing information posted within the group space, no digital record will be provided for this report. There is a mix of analyzing and observing interactions within the GBTRS networking group between members, as well as doing key term searches on public forums such as Twitter with the phrases GBTRS and Girls Behind the Rock show to understand a more indirect interaction with the organization from publics. In a complex digital space like the one GBTRS operates in, there will be overlap with organization public interactions as well as inter-public interactions and relationships to analyze, as both can have significant effect on the greater organizational purpose. The results of the preliminary observations show that when dealing with interactions within the virtual walls of the networking group, GBTRS team members tend to stay out of the conversation mix unless necessary for any reason, violating established group rules, incorrect use of the group page, etc. While outside of the group on the open internet, team members and group members will make opinions known and have more interaction with each other. These outside interactions between organization reps and community members are interesting because if they do not happen in a private manner, for example, over email or direct message, a potential third party or external stakeholder is then granted the opportunity to also observe and create a perception of the organization based on a single indirect action. The next method of research to be used is the monitoring and notation of relevant media coverage. Overall, this method can help an organization understand and evaluate its media relation efforts, which, as mentioned throughout this report, is a focus and issue that GBTRS would like to tackle. What differentiates this method from the previous is that it is focusing on media published by other organizations or public entities, not just general discourse between individual members or publics. With media coverage, looking for any potential biases is always a necessity because it needs to be noted and taken into consideration, as that bias could potentially skew the results one way or another. The 2018 Hypebot post, which it is worth noting that the Girls Behind the Rock show was given a slot on the listicle, but the author is also a guest poster, which leaves a big blank space and mystery as to where this individual falls within GBTRS's publics. A Middle Tennessee State University publication provides a bit more insight on the perception of the organization from inside, as a student from that university serves as the head of tours and programming for GBTRS and was interviewed for the article, adding a slight bias. The most significant result comes from the most notable publication, with an inclusion in an MTV News article on the weight of societal expectations that young women in the music industry face. With a mention of GBTRS in an article from a notable source within the industry, and more importantly, connected with an issue that the organization is working towards tackling, this piece of media coverage is a small step towards more high-level awareness of what GBTRS is and hopes to accomplish in the industry. The final method of research to be used is an interview with a professional contact expert or opinion leader. For this strategic plan, the interview subject was Shelby Chargan, who is the founder and executive director of GBTRS and Don't Ever Call Me Doll Entertainment. The retrieved data from this research technique was analyzed and with the possibility of bias kept in mind and compared to the data retrieved from both the field observation and media coverage techniques, as those combined tackled all of the essential publics, in this case, the organization, the internal publics, and the external public. With this plan, the goal is to be able to help identify the issues that Shelby sees within the organization, as well as the issues the agency sees surrounding the organization from a third-party standpoint, to provide research to understand why these are issues, and develop and implement a strategic communication plan that can assist Girls Behind the Rock show to progress toward its organizational and community goals. The agency proposes 2 objectives. 1, to increase public-facing presence within the music industry and other adjacent industries within the first year of campaign launch, to build relations with major industry players and increase awareness of the organization and its mission. And number 2, to effectively communicate internally with existing internal stakeholders promptly and in a way that negotiates rather than defends when approaching interorganizational issues. Since 2015, Girls Behind the Rock show has been dedicated to working from the ground up to provide empowering and meaningful opportunities for people of marginalized genders in the music industry. On behalf of the agency, I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to and consider our proposed strategic communication plan, as our ultimate desire is to be able to provide the why to GBTRS's public relations related issues, as well as providing the how-to strategic communication plan that will lead the organization to long-term success.